it is.
Well, there it is. Hey, this is WTii, and this is a 1 versus 1 game I will be casting today for you. It's between WTii, who's playing as the Silver Undead on the top right, versus Moonstar, who is the Red Night Elf at the bottom left of the map, Amazonia. So as we can see, we got our Night Elf. He's starting off traditionally, as they do, by building an Ancient of War, an Altar of Elders, and a Moonwell, which means that he'll be able to Ancient of War creep, probably with a Demon Hunter, perhaps a Warden, we shall see. And for our undead friend over here, Kai is the guy who doesn't have a graveyard yet, so he's going for Crypt, Altar, and of course Cigarette, which is going to supply himself with the ghouls, cancelling an Acolyte here. So I'm not sure whether that Acolyte was going to be used to scout. He definitely wants this second Cigarette up, so I don't know whether he just got a bit frisky and decided to build one too many Acolytes and realised it at the last moment. I don't know. Oh, it is Warden. It is Warden. So we've got Warden coming out. She'll be out soon enough, I imagine, after this Ancient of War has at least had a few whacks on one of these creeps. But first of all, he's got to get that Archer out. It's going to help pull the creeps. Perhaps he might use a Wisp to create, well, get the Renegade Wizard to cast Lightning Shield, because if you have a Wisp and an Archer next to the Ancient of War, when you aggro this creep here, this specific type, you can most of the time, if not always, if it's done correctly, force a Lightning Shield. But he might not want to do that, I don't know. That's his prerogative. We've got Kai upgrading Nerubian Tower on the outside. That's going to cover his entire base. It's very nice. He did go for it. So you can see the Wisp is there, the Archer is there, Ancient of War comes in. Renegade Wizard starts off the fight by throwing down a Lightning Shield. Normally always on the Archer. So the Archer can then get close to the Wizard, hug him up good, and do some bonus damage. But of course Moonstar does need to remember to move that Archer away from the Wizard, but not too much of a problem, since the Lightning Shield actually ran out before the time the Wizard's even going to die. Because if the Wizard dies to the Lightning Shield that the Wizard casted, then you will not get the experience, which is what that Warden wants. Very close to level 2, and you certainly don't want the Ancient of War to last hit any mobs as well, because that once again denies experience. Oh, Circlet of Nobility along with Slippers of Agility for the Warden. Very, very good items to start off with. And we've got some ghouls coming out here. Are they going for... surely not a neutral hero. Maybe it is a neutral hero. Or it could be Dark Ranger. No, Tinker. What on earth is going on here? Tinker along with 6 ghouls moving out, almost getting us around. Guaranteed surround there on the Warden. Of course, level 2 does allow Blink, which most Wardens will pick as their second ability. And the Archer is definitely going to want to get back here. That was a really nice surround there. That definitely cost the Warden something at the very least. 50 mana for that level 1 Blink that she has. So not a waste at all if you can get the surround. Another ghoul coming in here to join the fight. Oh, look at that. Pocket Factory coming down. Well, looks like there's going to be some aggression here from Kai. Moonstar responding by uprooting his Ancient of War, so it's mobile. Slow, but mobile. Warden just trying to distract and do any damage she can to the Tinker. Meanwhile, ghouls are trying to filter inside of the base, hitting Archers, Wisps, anything they can pretty much harass with. Moonstar's got a lot of things to worry about at this point in time, because the Pocket Factory is consistently spawning in Clockwork Goblins that do bonus damage when they die, and on top of that they just decent DPS overall. Ghouls all over the place, hitting Wisps as mentioned on the Archers. Weak ghouls being pulled back. Very nice micro here from WTii. Still keeping that ghoul, allowing it to get maybe another hit or two before it goes down. All of these ghouls so weak. Maybe trying to filter out of this base here. Maybe going to survive. It's going to save 3 ghouls here amidst all of this, because Moonstar is so distracted with what's going on. He's going to lose an Archer, and the ghoul is going to be his, but he's lost 2 Archers there. 3 ghouls have escaped for WTii. Another Archer going down. WTii moving on to level 2 with the Tinker. Warden halfway through level 2. But very weak, and Moonwell's at low supply. Although the Warden is strong enough to probably stay in this now. Another Pocket Factory being brought down here by WTii. That's very nice. Continuously bringing in those nasty, nasty little Clockwork Goblins. that are just going to continuously wail on this Moonwell. Meanwhile, a Ghoul is going to distract the Archer whenever possible, as provided she isn't Shadow Melded. There is no tech. Pepsi Kai got dual Crypt here, really getting crazy on the Ghouls on this side, but that Crypt is not producing anything at this time. I can only assume he hasn't hotkeyed these up properly because of all the action that's been going on, which is understandable. This Ancient of War, slow as it might be, did manage to get all the way from there to here somehow through his travels, and looks like the Warden's coming back in, but it's just one Ghoul is enough. Just leave a Ghoul in the Warden, just so you know that you're always under threat. Just let your enemy know. Ancient Protector is about to go up here. That's going to be pretty nice for Moonstar. It's not exactly ideal. You never particularly want to have to build an Ancient Protector as a Night Elf, but it's pretty much expected versus Undead. Looks like a Ghoul's going to pick off another Wisp here, doing decent damage to the economy of Moonstar. Pepsi Kai now forced to TP back. Otherwise, he would have lost his hero. Surrounded there with the Huntress and the Ancient of War, which can do a decent chunk of damage if he can ever get a hit. Looks like the Ancient Protector is down. That's 80 wood and about 110 gold or so. Pretty much just sitting there now, not doing much else. It was a bit late, but that's the way it goes with Night Elf. You don't normally build towers. Oh, looks like Lightning Shield coming down. Got to be real careful moving past the Tinker. He is very vulnerable. Now, I don't think he gets bonus experience from this creep just because he's got the undead army or the undead race. I don't think that works that way, but it almost looked like he was trying to do that. Oh, I'll just sit here on the creep and get bonus experience, get 4 times my regeneration rate going down. No, you're a Tinker. You might want to be part of the undead for some reason, but no. Try as you might, it's not going to happen. Although he is doing his bit to prove that he has got what it takes to be a, you know, a decent force for the undead. This crypt here is still sitting here doing nothing. I've not yet caught it building anything. I'm not sure what it's there for, other than potentially Gargs later on, but he has been continuously producing ghouls, so he may as well have been using it. There's a slight mishap on his macro side, otherwise he's been very much in control of this game. He's getting himself a shredder, so he's really going to want to use as many ghouls as possible in an attack soon, because if you're getting yourself a shredder when you have an army of ghouls, this is undead. Ghouls are really good for chopping the wood, as we all know. Looks like a Warden spotted a sneaky ghoul there, and he's moving back here. He's got to be real careful with that Tinker, because that Warden can blink in. She's got a decent chunk of mana, 186, and get a Shadow Strike down, which the Shadow Strike is no doubt going to be level 2 at this point. Shop is going down. That's only going to be, you know, Sacrificial Skull or, you know, Rod of Necromancy. There's no tier 2 anytime soon for Kai, so he's not going to be able to buy himself any potions or healing. This Shredder, I think, is just an addition to his army, not even so much for the wood. It's just there to be part of the force of the undead. Meanwhile, we have a Tree of Ages being researched for Moon. Oh, the Tinker is about to go down, but can the Zeppelin save him in time? No, it cannot. Too slow there. That is a very unfortunate thing to happen for Kai, because any kills he gets at this point, if he gets any kills at all, will not be able to grant him any experience, because his hero is not there to get experience in the first place. And Moonstar being continuously harassed by this a very effective Nerubian Tower, just slowing her down, making it very awkward to move around. Moon purchasing, well, I should say Moonstar really, so we don't get too confused, but Moonstar purchasing a Zeppelin to try to get into the back of Kai's base here, just do some damage and navigate around that pesky Nerubian Tower, who always seems to find a way to get its way with the Warden. Now it looks like a Huntress is going to have to be picked up here. Going to have to use that Zeppelin. Good micro, just slow down the economy of Kai, but these ghouls are ready. And ghouls on more wisps. That must be a lot of wisps that have died so far. And Acolyte coming out here. Right, very nicely done by Kai there, getting the last hit on the Acolyte, denying experience for the Warden. Now, in case you were curious, yes, you can still receive experience for your hero if your hero is inside of a Zeppelin. Whilst enemy units or enemy creeps die, you will still receive experience if your hero is inside of a Zeppelin. So, yeah, there you go. Level 2 Tinker, so close to level 3. Maybe a very effective attack here with some small dispatchment of ghouls with the Zeppelin. I don't know if he's going to be able to get this, because as soon as all those wisps come out and start repairing, yeah, it's going to be a beastly repair. Meanwhile, we've got Huntresses and Goblin Shredders being able to do some decent damage to the ghouls. Nice little touch there. Not much anti-air, obviously, for Moonstar. the Ancient Protector moved up to the front of the base and no longer was protecting the back of the base, so it looks like Kai took advantage of that. Ancient of Wind being placed, along with 2 Ancients of Law, and we already have 2 Ancients of War. So Ancients of War are pretty much that. They are the military. They are pretty much going to be used for defense at this purpose. Meanwhile, we're probably expected to see Ancient of Law, sort of maybe bears, dryads, and Ancient of Wind. I'm half expecting just a talent or 2 just for the Fairy Fire. But we'll see what happens with that. But the Fairy Fire would be very useful in this circumstance, because then you could see where that Zeppelin was at all times, because Fairy Fire grants visibility whilst it is placed upon an opponent. Level 3.5 Tinker here, Staff of Teleportation. It's got some nice items, Boots of Speed, and as he almost looks like he's got a limp there. What the hell's going on there? Just get distracted by the way he's walking. Just wondered if he took too many injuries in previous fights. But anyway, he's coming over here. He's going to creep out this mercenary camp. Ghouls should be able to make light work of this. It does look like Pocket Factory's going to live. It's taken quite a battering. More so, not almost as much as that ghoul, but the ghoul is returning back to base. That's the beauty. As long as the ghouls don't get picked off by a warden on the way back to base, they can just return, regenerate on the creep, and start to bring back the wood, because they can just go onto the wood and start chopping it. That's what they do. They chop the wood. So we've got Moonstar looking to creep an okay creep camp. I'm not sure how Moonstar's doing. I want to see where his hero is. Level 3.5. Tinker on level 4 now, because I'm going to say these creeps are okay, not too bad, but they're not going to grant the most experience in the world. And replenishment potion, it can be okay. It can be a lifesaver, but in this case it's not going to be very productive at all. And we have a shade here, very nice use from Kai, keeping an eye on what's going down. It's being blocked slightly by the Ancient of War, despite it being essentially a ghost to some degree, but it still can be blocked, and there's a reason for that. It goes all the way back to Reign of Chaos. How do I say it? I don't know, actually he was getting blocked by the units, but I don't think it's funny actually. The shade's getting blocked by the Ancient of War, but if the Ancient of War wants to move through the shade, it wouldn't get blocked. I'm always feeling tempted to test that, but way back in the day it was an exploit. On certain maps there were maps with bridges, and undeads, shades didn't used to cost food back then, I believe. I think they were free. Well, they weren't. They still cost you the acolyte, so it still cost you like the 90 gold or so it was back in Reign of Chaos, because Reign of Chaos was more expensive. I don't really want to go too far on this story, but long story short, basically undead players were mashing up shades, blocking bridges, and these shades have a pathing blocker, like all units normally have. So you couldn't move through them unless you could see them, and you couldn't really get Dust of Appearance very easily back then. You could get it from shops, but without going too far into the story, because all of this action is going on, basically undeads were very annoying and were blocking bridges and basically stopping enemies from getting even close to them because of annoying shades. Now, as we can see, this Goblin Sapper, is it going to find its target? It is! Takes down that annoying Nerubian tower that has been pestering Moonstar for so long. Zeppelin's just really being used here as a vicious war. You know, what on earth? I'm surprised he's not going to be saved at all, does it? He does get saved by the Zeppelin at the last moment. Gargs here doing a lot of air-to-ground damage, but they did have an opportunity to go on that Zeppelin, and that's probably what they'll want to do, because there's not much to stop them from doing so, and they could definitely take it out. They do superior damage to air units. Even without the upgrades, they're amazing. Now we have the Warden, who's almost level 5 now. This is getting scary. Along with bears, dryads, hunts, it's going to be a formidable army, but so far it's still a very small army. Doesn't look like this Zeppelin might have pushed his luck just a bit too far, but it's being used as a scout for Pepsi Kai, essentially, just to keep an eye on where Moonstar is, whilst he can... It gives him the comfort to basically creep. And fortunately enough for him, Moonstar didn't decide to start scouting upwards after killing that Zeppelin. Otherwise, he would have been able to place a nice gank on Kai here, who has just reached level 5 and has got some good items. Greater healing pot. He's going to come in here. I don't know if he's going for invulnerability pot. No, potion of invisibility. I wonder if Moonstar's kept an eye on that. Potion of invulnerability has actually been purchased by Moonstar. and he's got himself a Wand of Illusion, which could be very effective for Druids of the Claw, because Pepsi Kai, as far as I can see, doesn't have any dispel, but he does have a Slaughterhouse about to go up. Oh, look at this, he's just going to sneak a last hit on this Shredder. It's like Moonstar knows. Is he just coming back to base, or is he suspicious? He must be. No, I can't tell. If he was really suspicious, he probably would have killed the Shredder or done something with it. I guess not. Kai is just really biding his time here, waiting as long as possible, hoping that his opponent gets as far away from the base before he initiates his attack. But he does have a shade here to keep an eye, which is why he's not come out of invisibility just yet. The moment those units get far away enough from Kai, he will feel comfortable enough to place down his Pocket Factory and go to town on this Shredder. There it goes. Pocket Factory coming out. Did you see the Shredder just completely exploding off into the screen? Warden now, like, what the hell should I do? Coming back with a Panda just to deal with this and the army. Meanwhile, the Warden is going to go and harass. Pocket Factory going to town on this, well, it almost looks like enraged gold mine, but entangled gold mine. Warden getting pestered once again by Nerubian Towers. Garg's waiting there. Looks like a Staff of Teleportation is going to be used for the Tinker to get back and try to hurt the Warden a little bit. The Warden might be able to pick up a kill or two if she's lucky, using Staff of Teleportation herself to get out of this scenario. Oh no, she actually cancelled that and chose to do a Fock instead, and then use Invulnerability Pot so she could walk out of that base without being too damn slowed, because Invulnerability Pot will remove any debuffs such as that annoying slow. At least for a temporary time, until it comes back again, which is why you want to get outside of that base before it runs out. Warden already over here. I imagine she used Blink or something, because she got there very quickly. Starting to creep, but now returning back to base. She's a bit all over the place, really. Moonstar might be getting a little bit flustered at this point because of the annoying harass from Kai. Dryad did fall there, and a Huntress has fallen here. Moonstar is slipping a little bit with his micro here. Not concentrating as much as he should be. About to lose another Huntress. This might be through his own choice. I have to keep an eye on what his actual food count is. He hasn't exactly got the goal to start producing more units, but maybe he wants to stay underneath the 50 food cap, but only produce tier 2 units such as bears and dryads. So maybe that was deliberate, but I almost suspect it wasn't. Bears and dryads being produced. Meanwhile, we can see the upgrades for these are at 0-0. We've got a Wisp out here scan. Warden just almost camp in the middle now, just sort of looking out for things that could go wrong, basically. Scouting as well with the Wand of Illusion, just checking for any expansions. Meanwhile, Panda is creeping with the bulk of the army, trying to get up to level 3 at the very least. A lot of camping going down at the moment. Kai getting ready for this Warden, thinking it's the real deal. He hasn't thrown any Pocket Factories down, and he's just hitting it. So I think he knows it's a Wand of Illusion. Otherwise, he would have gone a bit more ape shite over that. Lots of Gargs, Obsidian statues, many ghouls. We've got 0-0 upgrades all around. We're getting large army sizes now. So for Kai, we've got 50 food. And of course 48 food for Moonstar. Looks like Kai's coming in. He's going to pick off the Dryads when possible. Warden throwing down the Fock along with the Panda's Breath of Fire. Shoves back the Gargoyles. Bears are being hit every now and then by the old Tinker. Getting a kill. This is of course a nasty point for Moonstar, because he was actually trying to creep this very tough red spot with bolts and all the likes. So it's not a creep spot that you want to get jacked at. Let's face it. That is Staff of Teleportation being used by the Warden. Coming back to deal with the ghouls that Kai used as a sort of ninja attack on the side. Even slipped by me there for a moment. And waiting to get a massive Fock off there. You've got to be real careful with these ghouls, because whilst that is lovely play from Kai, it almost is definitely going to backfire because of just the flexibility and mobility of the Warden. Look at that. Breath of Fire, just insane damage to these undead units. It does look like Warden level 5 and Panda level 3 can pretty much shove off any sort of harass from undead, unless they have the upgrades, and this one does not. Kai did not invest in any upgrades despite having large armies, but then again he was going for gargoyles and ghouls, so they both benefit from different upgrades, so it would be quite expensive to upgrade them all, so I can understand his reasons for that. It does look like he's getting banshees now for Fok, well basically anti-magic against Fok and Shadow Strike, which I don't think the Warden has a Shadow Strike yet, unless, no, she definitely doesn't. There's no Tome of Retraining being used, I don't think, yet. Panda sitting with a great heal of potion, what the hell? So he's got a greater healing potion, put it that way. And the bears still unhappy because they've only got 0 upgrades. Looks like no one likes upgrades in these higher level plays, at least this game. Ghouls still coming out, so it's understandable that Kai's forces have been destroyed quite easily by a couple of powerful heroes, because his forces consist of weak tier 2 and weak tier 1 units, so it's quite easy to pick them off. Now Gargs by no means are weak in general, I just mean their health. They don't have much, they have about 420 health, and I can't even find another Garg to clarify that. And ghouls have like 340, yeah, it's not good. It's not good versus a level 3 Fok and a level 2 Panda Breath of Fire, especially if you've got Drunken Haze on top of it, which will allow Breath of Fire to do additional damage over time, so it acts as a dot on top of the initial huge AoE damage. We've got upgrades, finally upgrades here for Moonstar. That's what we like to see. Good old Moonstar with his upgrades. Good boy. What are you doing? You get your upgrades. Well done. I'm so excited because I mentioned it lots of times here, expecting one of the players to have had upgrades when I was mentioning it, so it'd have some sort of justification. But anyway, here we got Abomination coming out here. Fat boy. Oh my goodness. A freaking possession going down here on the bear. Getting taken out shortly, but he has still got another bear using Roar. Roar's going along that whole undead army. Not that there is much left of it, to be honest. These 2 Night Elf heroes are very strong. Greater healing potion being used just in time there to save the Panda, but he's still taking a huge amount of damage. The Tinker actually does more damage than you think. Plus 21 damage there. That's, well, that Roar, I keep trying to call it Scroll of Roar because I got into that habit, but that Roar, essentially, the ability from the Druid of the Claw. Oh, look at that as well. Just granting him quite a beastly amount of damage, and he's got fast attack. You'd be surprised. He can actually do, you know, he can give a good old whack, not to mention Orb of Corruption, which is why that Panda, because he's only level 3, went down quite quickly after boosting almost all of his health back up to 4. He's going straight back down again. So it doesn't look like Moonstar actually had to get back from that fight, so she couldn't quite finish the game then. And I said she just because it's a Warden. I'm sure it's a he. I'll be surprised if it was a female. But there are some good female gamers, just not enough of them, let's face it. And that'll be solved by time, when the gaming becomes a bit more acceptable by the female gender. Until that day, men rule the roost, and if you want to say so otherwise, you can do so, but you know I'm right. Let's face it. Okay, we do have this upgrade here, and I'm hoping I'm not insulting too much. At least 10% of my fan base have probably been insulted by that. And we've got a Fairy Dragon, the sexiest unit of all, talking about the female gender. Very sexy. Look at that. Admire it in all of its glory. Let's see if we can get some close-ups of it in action. Oh no, that screws up my camera angle. Okay, that's enough Fairy Dragon action. So we've got a good old mixed Night Elf army coming in here to intercept with this undead army. Look at that. Lots of absorbing anti-magic shell going down. So that's going to absorb a Fok maybe, and a Breath of Fire, but not much more than that. These Banshees are being picked off quite easily. You're still using the magic and the mana on them, because those Banshees, with the, you know, with the absorb magic, the anti-magic shell, they can only absorb so much, and these are powerful heroes now. And the Dryads are just going to town as well on the Banshees. So the Tinker is level 6. Finally, he's gone into Robo Goblin, and he's, you know, he's whacking the Warden every now and then, but she's kind of shrugging it off at this point. Not to mention she's got Blink. She's not doing too well now that she's staying in the fight a little bit too long there, but that's probably because he is concentrating on picking off the rest of those Banshees. Level 4 Panda, now level 6 Warden, 150 mana Fairy shortly. I'm sure we're going to see a Vengeance in a moment, because the Vengeance, well, maybe not actually. It might be level 3 Blink, because that could be just as effective depending on the type of game that you are playing. Vengeance is always useful though, let's face it. It's very powerful, a level 6 ability. Meanwhile, Kai is actually deciding to siege the Night Elf base, whilst Moonstar is almost neglecting it a little bit. This is really tight because he doesn't want his expansion to go up, but he doesn't need that much to stop the expansion. I'm sure he could send a hero back or two to try to deal with this, although it is heavy melee and a big beefy Tinker, so the Warden or the Panda isn't going to kill those kind of units very easily, but surely you can't let this carry on for too long. Now she's not, I mean, Vengeance would deal with that quite nicely because the fight over here, although the skeleton and the corpses have pretty much disappeared by this point, but earlier on could have been gathering up some of those Vengeance Wisps. I can't remember exactly what they're called, but Avatar of Vengeance, essentially. The level 6 ability can spawn invulnerable little units, up to 6 of them I believe, and yeah, those invulnerable units can obviously get away with attacking the rest of this undead army. It does look like Kai has retreated the rest of his forces back to base because he doesn't want to risk losing them. Meanwhile, the Tinker can get away with sieging this Night Elf base quite reliably so, because he's big beefy boy, and if he gets into too much trouble he can always use Staff of Teleportation to get himself out, because there is no way to stun him, and it looks like he's actually going to take that Warden out. Moonstar not bringing back that Warden quick enough. He's got Blink, come on, you can't. Oh, so much is on the line at this point. That Tinker is doing so much damage. Look at him. He's going through bears as though there's a knife through butter. What on earth is going on? Dryads being picked off by the goblin, the Pocket Factory's goblins. Oh dear. All the Dryads being picked off by this pesky Tinker. What on earth? The Tinker is so effective. He really is an underrated hero. You always think of him as like, you kind of almost laugh him off a little bit. But no, not this time. He was going to town there. I mean, that Tinker, solo Tinker as well. No second hero. This is undead, so there's no Death Knight or anything like that. It was just a Tinker. And it goes to show what you can do. Look at the units produced. 242 units. Obviously, a vast majority of those were Clockwork Goblins. But still, a very, very action-packed game right from the get-go. And could have gone either way for a while there. But a few mishaps from Moonstar towards the end. Losing the Warden, not acting quick enough, I think, when Kai was sieging the base. Those sort of things just about tipped the scale towards Kai to give him the victory in the end. Alright, so if you enjoyed this video, then please thumbs up the video. And if you like what I do, then feel free to subscribe as well. And I'll see you later.